children born in wedlock included in a will. But now it was opened up. Even children born out of wedlock have a right to property of the father or the mother. Because I believe there are so many people that are being fleeced by family, by friends, even spouses. I have seen that because I've been practicing for the last 22 years.
So Kulaba, first of all. Yeah. Thank you for taking the time to be here with me today to talk about this very important topic, because I know that the community, there's always some misunderstanding about this topic, the law, what the law says, what it doesn't say. When it comes to buying land these days, we have to understand what it implies, whether can we do this as dual citizens or non-citizens. And so there's so much that has changed in the law that it is we need to be updated on what the current law says, and also maybe some misunderstandings ironed out. So thank you, Tom, for coming out here today. Let me give you the opportunity to introduce yourself and go more into so that people can quickly get to know you, whichever way much you want to share, and then you can go into the presentation as you prepare.
All right. Thank you very much. Very glad to be here. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Brendah Mpanga. I am the founder and managing partner at B&M Advocates, a largely female law practice based in the middle of Kampala. We've been in the market for the last 7 years, serving clients on a variety of issues in respect to investments, litigation, debt recovery, transaction advisory, family and succession issues, which is a big problem. I am married to one husband, and together we have 3 children. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Now, please tell us what we need to know about the law. This is your expertise. This is what you do for a living. We have issues to understand the challenges here in the diaspora. What are we allowed to do under the law as Ugandans who find themselves living outside Uganda? What are the things that we sometimes overlook when it comes to us owning property, and how does that how succession issues, and what kind of due diligence do we have to do when buying things? And sometimes batuba, right? Our people are fleeced out of money, and it's because we don't understand the legal, what protections we can have under the law, or where are we vulnerable. So please educate us. Take the floor.
All right. Thank you very much. This discussion today is going to focus on so assets in Uganda, specifically look at land and shares. For those who are still interested in investing in Uganda, I believe there could be some of you out there who still want to have assets here. We are going to have a discussion on that as a first phase, and then we will get into succession law and there's a new law currently now, an amendment to the Succession Act, which kind of tweaked a bit of things that were in regards to succession law. And then we'll look at setting up of trusts. Initially, I said I briefly introduced myself, but I would like to also use this opportunity to focus on take a few minutes to talk about a few things that we could help you with in terms of legal services. I believe there are people out there who have properties here, who have tenants. There's a new tenant, landlord-tenant Act,
it's Wonder
2022, that changed the scope of things. A lot of attention is being given to tenants, so they now have rights in the properties that we own. For example, payment of rent. You cannot ask for more rent beyond 3 months. You know how we used to ask for a year, for 6 months. You cannot go beyond 3 months unless you've agreed with your tenant. The tenant has a right to say no. You cannot increase rent beyond 10% per year, and you have to give your tenant 60 days notice. All these seem absurd, but that is the law currently. So we provide that service in terms of debt collection as well, and rental recoveries, because I believe there are so many people that are being fleeced by family, by friends, even spouses. I have seen that because I've been practicing for the last 22 years, and I have seen so many of these things happen. And it's because you get out there and you trust somebody to do this work for you, and then eventually you lose the hard-earned cash. Like we started off, we do provide due diligence on property that you're going to purchase. Again, so many people have been fleeced in this area. We provide custodial services for certificates of title, wills, share certificates that indicate omugabo in business. For example, if you have a company where you own shares and information is not coming through very well, you could appoint us as a nominee shareholder. We hold your shares and we ask the relevant questions. We provide services in terms of drafting wills. We've had so many people come to us in the diaspora saying, my father needs a will because, there are so many children, there are so many family members trying to make life difficult. So we come in and give that support. Of course, litigation is a no. It's something that we also do. Issues around dual citizenship and ownership of land, and then establishment of companies, because I believe again there are people out there who want to set up a local company. Perhaps they want to partner with a foreign investor. We provide advisory on that. So we will now move into the due diligence on purchase of land, and I'll start specifically with a case that we are currently handling. Someone in the diaspora spent 500 million shillings, bought some land along Entebbe Road. The challenge was that he never did enough due diligence. Sent money to somebody who represented himself as part of the administrators of the estate, because the land belonged to someone who had passed. What happened was that went ahead, paid this money. There was a fraud, and this person was put on the title. Now the other family members dragged this person to court, saying that they did not consent to this transaction. Now, when we are grappling in the transaction right now, the person who did the transaction undervalued the price on which stamp duty was paid. Now, under the law, if you undervalue a property and pay less stamp duty at transfer, you lose everything. You lose the property, you lose the money, you lose everything. So it is important for you, before you purchase land, identify one. Is it Milo? Is it a lease? Is it a chibanja? What exactly is it? We have another case again, someone in the diaspora bought land, paid a lot of money for it. Turns out it was a chibanja and he has no title, So pay attention to what are you buying exactly. Conduct physical visits on the property. Who is the LC? Who are the neighbors? Go around the family. Who are the owners of this property? When you go to do a search at the land registry, make sure you don't do a system search. There are cases where people go and someone checks in the system and says, the land belongs to Brendah Mpanga, But if there's any problem, it's very difficult for you to hold the commissioner of land responsible. It is best that you get a search report stamped by the commissioner. Should there be a problem, you should be able to get recourse in that case. The person doing the transaction for you needs to be an accredited lawyer. Ask for their practicing certificates because they need to sign on the sale agreement. Yeah, when you're going to submit these documents at the lands registry, make sure that when an assessment is done for a transfer to be effected, you ask for the assessment done by the government valuer to understand what is the value of the property to avoid the issue of undervaluing and losing money. So pay only the money that you have after you have seen the assessment from the government valuer. Now, when it comes to citizenship and land, I believe there are some people that have since perhaps denounced the Ugandan citizenship for different reasons. That's Under right. Ugandan law, you cannot own Milo land in Uganda if you do not own Ugandan citizenship. It has to be a lease. Again, when it comes to a lease, there's a certain due diligence that you need to do to make sure that you check the Uganda Land Commission, who is the owner of this property. How long is the lease? We've seen cases where someone buys a lease that was expired 5 years ago. Again, avoid losing money by doing quick fixes and excels. We've had cases where someone says, I was sent pictures on WhatsApp and the property looked fantastic. That is not enough. You're going to lose 200, 300 million that you have fought so hard to earn. We've seen these cases, and I think it is important that someone takes the trouble to watch and see, use the right people, seek the right advice before you enter into that transaction. We'll then move on to another section where, for example, someone is out there and they want to own shares in a Ugandan entity. I believe sometimes people come and they tell you there's this company, it is making a lot of money, the dividends are huge, it is a listed company. When you invest in it, you're going to make a lot of money. So you get, again, your savings and dump them into this company. Again, because you haven't done proper due diligence, you could lose out. I can give an example. We have another case of someone from Singapore, a Ugandan in Singapore, who wanted to enter into the pharmaceutical sector, which makes quite a bit of money. Now, he's $120,000 to someone here to purchase shares on behalf of his company in Singapore. Now, what happened is that sent the funds. This person took the money. They effected a transfer, but then they never issued a share certificate. They never entered them into what we call the register for the company. Now, for you to be a shareholder in a company, you must make sure that you signed a transfer form, you paid stamp duty, you own a share certificate, and you entered into the register of members at the company, and you need to ask for that information. If that doesn't come through, then there's a problem. Of course, there's other things that you need to do. What is the value of the share in that company? Have you seen a valuation report? These are done by auditors, so you know the book value, what is the market price of the share in that company? Who are the directors? Who are the other owners? Does it have debt? Is it operating in a loss position? You could get someone, an accountant, to do what we call the financial forecast of the company between 3 to 5 years. What is the outlook, before you invest in this business that is going to run down. I think I have spoken about the next slide in terms of make sure you own a share certificate, because under the law, that is evidence that you have shares in that company. If you don't have shares and all you say, I sent money to this person, also ask for a receipt ask for a receipt of funds, because this case that we are handling, the person never owned a receipt, never got a share certificate, he was never entered in the register of members. All he says is that I trusted this person, we grew up together on the same village, we are colleagues in school, why is this person treating me like this? But the money is gone, So
That's right.
It is very unfortunate. So it is important that you do the due diligence and seek the right advice. Sometimes people say that it's lawyers are expensive, or they're out to get my money, but I have seen that you'd rather spend an extra, few shillings and do things properly as opposed to losing everything,
That's right.
Yes. Would you like me to go on?
Please go on. I will ask a few questions at the end. Yeah.
All right. Yes. Moving on, we'll step into the second issue, the second phase of this conversation in terms of family wealth and succession. Like I mentioned in the beginning, there's a new Succession Act, Amendment Act 2022. And before that amendment, you would only have children born in wedlock included in a will. But now it was opened up. Even children born out of wedlock have a right to property of the father or the mother, which I think is a good thing, because they are children. It is not their problem that they came to this world. So the law allows illegitimate children as well, when you are drafting a will, include them in your will. And the law also says that you must appoint a guardian for children and dependents. There must be someone who is going to take charge of these children, because previously you would have children, let's say you live an estate with children, let's say 16, 14, but then there's no proper guidance in terms of how do these children take up these assets. So the law prescribes certain obligations for the guardian to make sure that he or she takes the responsibility to look after these children and the assets that are left behind. Now the law also provides that 20% of a deceased asset is not supposed to be distributed. Before that, 100% would be distributed, and then perhaps the children who are still in school, maybe they're still very young, do not have school fees, do not have a home. Right now, the law is that 20% of the asset is left undistributed to provide for children who are still school going, and also dependents that you may have. Now, a dependent is a person who you've been looking after wholly under your care at death. Yeah. So you could have a parent, you could have a sibling, you could have a relative, a niece, a nephew who has been under your care 100%. That person is referred to as a dependent. Now, a lineal descendant, as you know, is a person who, the direct line, for example, if you come from a certain clan, the people under that clan are referred to as lineal descendants. But again, they have to be under your care for them to qualify to be included in the will. There have also been cases where wills are tampered with. You get a will where page 1 says Brendah, I left a house in Kololo for Brendah, and someone pulls it out and says the house in Kololo is left for Robert, for example, and then they step for the will. But then now the law is that all the pages of the will have to be witnessed. They have to be signed and witnessed by both the testator and the witnesses. And if you have a will where this is not the case, it is regarded as an invalid will because it could have been tampered with. The other issue now is that if you are an administrator appointed to administer an estate, you are given a 2-year period. Before that, you were an administrator for life, which is not the case now. Every 2 years they change the administrators. If the court thinks that you're not doing a good job, you will actually go to jail for it. So I actually laugh and warn people that you'd rather not be appointed as an administrator now, because it is a lot of hard work and there's a lot of risk associated with the role. There have been cases where, for example, someone is abroad and then the other administrators are in Uganda. The law says that all of you should act jointly, because there have been cases where someone sends drafts a power of attorney and say, Robert gave me authority to transact on behalf of the family. Yeah. And then you never, ever gave this authority. Yeah. So now the law is that you must act jointly. All of you must be involved in terms of disposal of assets, distribution of assets of the deceased. The other very interesting one is that before this amendment, if you were married, even when you were separated, you could claim for property under the old law. Under the new law, at death, if you've been separated with your spouse, for example, you traveled abroad and you've not been living together for a long time, you could miss out in terms of the assets of your spouse. However, it says that if you are away by reason of studies, then you qualify for being included in the estate. The other very good one, I believe, and very useful one, is that any disposal of assets should be approved by the spouse and lineal descendants, the family generally, because there have been cases where administrators dispose of property and say we are doing it for the good of the family, and these properties of the sale and by the family. So now if approval needs to be sought. Then in cases where executors are not appointed under the guardian who is supposed to take charge of the children is given the opportunity to make sure that they take charge of the distribution and disposal of any assets of the deceased. We'll then now move into a very interesting area. It is an option that a family can undertake to register a trust. I have seen this in cases where, for example, there's a lot of conflict within families. There's so many children from so many mothers. There's a lot of confusion, So some of the benefits of registering a trust, and I'll talk about how it is set up, is one, managing family conflict. You could have those relatives who esenga or jaja or ikolja who says things must go this direction. This property is going to remain for me. So this allows you to manage all that and have all the assets put under one vehicle. The other one, of course, is protecting the vulnerable children and spouses, dependents, lineal descendants, to make sure that their life, they have a certain status quo that is maintained even when you pass. Yeah. Then, of course, it also helps avoid having litigation in terms of fighting over assets in the family. The other one, of course, is there are people who want to get involved in philanthropy using their assets. It allows you to do that. And then, it lives beyond your legacy for the future purposes. There are people who want to make sure that even when they are gone, their life, they continue to live on. So this helps you to be able to do that. Now, in terms of setting up a trust, there are certain aspects that you need to pay attention to. One is that identify, and I'll mention just the salient ones, identify credible trustees. And by this, what do I mean? Is that, again, you could have family members, maybe two, and then have someone who is completely impartial, not related to the family at all, be a trustee, because this will be the same mind in the conversations, And then you could have a professional as a trustee as well. For example, we also provide that service of being corporate trustees for families, because having a corporate trustee or someone who is not part of the family, helps to give direction and have professional advice issued in such cases. Then determine the beneficiaries. Who do you want to access the assets that you're putting under this trust? And all that can be put together in what we call a trust deed, because it has the powers, the functions, the responsibilities of the trustees, the beneficiaries, what they need to do, how the assets would be handled, disposed of, or you could even include in there that they should never be disposed of. The trust is set up to provide education for these children and maybe their children's children. And you have that sort of organization such that even when you pass, that is what would happen. Now, the other benefit is that a trust is eligible to apply for tax exemption. However, on the onset, you need to register for tax, and then as you start, you then start the process with Uganda Revenue Authority. The Revenue Authority would not issue you a tax exemption unless they see the performance of the trust. And again, you can use advisors to be able to support on that. Very briefly, in terms of conclusion, ask the experts. If you do not want to lose money, seek a lawyer, an accountant, to help you do the due diligence for you, as opposed to losing 500 million shillings, being fleeced by a relative, a friend, a colleague, an OB, an OG. It happens a lot. So I think, Robert, that is it that I had to talk about. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for sharing very critical information about what we need to know, about what the law says and what it doesn't say. What can we do and what shouldn't we do? What should we look out for? Quick question. When it comes to citizenship, many people have found themselves overseas at one point when they left. There are some in the diaspora community here that left Uganda prior to the dual citizenship law taking into effect. And there are those who left after when the law passed. I don't know if those individuals find themselves in different categorizations, but we find ourselves owning property that we owned prior to leaving. And then we find ourselves have renounced property or citizenship. Now, how does the law look at us? Particularly those who left before the dual citizenship law took effect and those who left after the dual citizenship law took effect. Is there any light you can shed on that?
I think the quickest, there are two options. One is to citizenship. The other one is to have a company purchase the land from you, and then they issue you a lease if you do not intend to get your Ugandan citizenship back. You can come up with a structure, or we've actually done it for some clients. Prepare a structure where you, as the person who left prior to this, own a lease to continue owning your property. The property is purchased by a company, a local Ugandan company, because again, under the law, even if it is a company, you cannot own a company cannot own property unless all the shareholders are Ugandans.
Oh, all
cannot own Milo. You can only yes. The Land Act is very clear. All the owners, if it is defined as a local company, is where all the shareholders are Ugandans. That company can only own a lease. So what you need to do is to have your assets sold to a local company, and then that local company issues you with a lease. Yeah, it still gives you leverage and in terms of ownership as a lessee, and that would protect your property. The other thing you can do is lodge a caveat on the property to make sure that nothing happens to it. The other one, like I mentioned, is to apply for citizenship. Although before you do that, of course, right now there's a risk. There's a risk because in case the process takes long, that could be a challenge.
As in, people, someone in the middle, someone might find out and try to do stuff, fleece you again.
Yes. Find out that you could actually lose your, under the law, you cannot claim it. There's what we call nominee companies, which would hold your asset for you and then issue you with a lease.
Oh, okay. So now, do you, when it comes in your legal work, are you able to represent people in any way, help them, get some of? Do you only advise, or do you also do represent people when it comes to transactions?
Definitely. We would. Yes, Robert, we would handle a transaction end to end until it's to its final conclusion. If there's anyone who requires support on that, we would definitely be able to assist.
Bana, I don't know. Mu lulimi lututegeera mu Luganda, abaana bategeera Oluganda kubanga ekyo kiyogedde kikulu okuba nti omuntu basobola n'okukunnyagako ebyo byo kati mu makkati awo batobetegereza. Kati ogambye ekyangu omugeri kyayinza okukola kati omuntu yeesanga kati nava mu Uganda mu mwaka 12 awo whatever, kati ndi mu Bulaaya muno nafuna obutuuzi obulala naye ninayo ekizimbe kyange Ntinda, ninako n'ekyapa kiri mu case somewhere. Ekyangu ekyokukola amagezi kyangu kati ng'ogyeko komba nti kanzije mpandiise dual citizenship. Ekyangu ekyokukola nti waliwo amakampuni gagayinza okubeerawo mu makkati awo oba nga gokwasizza obuyinza ate go tegasobola kubba mangu awo.
Companies ezo zibeera professional companies. Ezisobola okubeera nti ebeera nga yennannyini naye tukola documentation ekuyamba to secure obwannannyini obubwo. Then company nekuwa lease at least eyo noba nti gwosasula premiums zaayo, bwe wabaawo emisolo egy'okusasula byonna gwo bisasula naye nga gwo owninga kwega tudraftinga agreement and making sure nti company ino is just a shell company naye gwe nga property yo kyagirina mu mikono gyo. Then nologingako caveat enegenda mu Ministry of Lands, tewali asobola kugula oba kudisposinga property eyo okujjako nga bakwebuuzizzaako.
Okay. Kati akwagala kusanga
ekintu abantu kyebako
soko Maria
ekintu kyakibakola abantu kyebakola nti oli abeera n'ebyapa bye 5 oba 2 oba 1 nabitereka emyaka n'emyaka n'ekyapa kyange kagenda ngayo kakeberangako mu lands, ojja kuzuukuka olunaku lumu weesange nga ekyapa oli yagenda n'afuna etuyita special certificate of title n'akubisaamu ekyapa ekirala ne batunda property yo. So kyetuba tugamba ba clients baffe nti buli myaka ebiri abamu tulowooza nti bwe nkwata ekyapa kyange ne ntula nakyo ne nkitereka mu kakeesi ekyo kimala, ekyo tekimala. Abayaaye bangi, abantu abaagala okubba ebintu by'abalala bangi, ate ab'amagezi nabo bangi. So usually kye tu-advising abantu nti buli myaka ebiri kola search report ekubuulire nti yes gw'okyali nannyini. Oyinza okugenda n'okola search nga waliwo na special certificate of title n'afuna mortgage mu banka wafuna loan ya miliyoni 3 oba 5 nga togendanga nayo.
Tulina okukola mu bwangu, tulina okukola omwangu kwetangira emitawaana gino. Weebale nnyo, weebale ddala. Ndowooza information tugifunye era abantu baffe tujja kubeera tubasaasanya. Tujja na kukola enteekateeka komewo when maybe we gather more people, even more questions now that once they listen to this. Ndowooza nze ekibuuzo kye mbadde nsinga okuba nakyo kyekyo ekya dual citizenship, kubanga mmanyi nti kye yesinga okututagaza. So kati bakufuna batya? Tusangibwa ofiisi yo, website?
Okay.
Abakwetaaza.
Offices zaffe ziri ku Lumumba Avenue, Solis House. Tuli ku mwaliro gw'omukaaga. Naye of course mwabali eyo it's difficult to physically visit. You can get more information about us on the website yaffe www.bnmlaw.org. Esimu eri +5677446461 and the email is info@bnmlaw.org or bmpanga@bnmlaw.org. I can perhaps put it in the put it in the chat as well.
Okay. All right. Yeah, contact us.
That is our landline.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you very much for having me. I look forward to future engagements.
Yes. Kale,
all right.
Bye.
Kale.